What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's video. I'm so hyped for this video because I've gathered a few amazing content creators here on YouTube, and we are here to talk about our favorite Nintendo Switch memories. Look, the Switch has been around for what feels like an eternity now, and I myself have had a ton of amazing memories with this console. In fact, this is probably my favorite console of all time for reasons that I'll get into later, but the main reason I've been inspired to make this video is because recently I spent a lot of time with the Nintendo Switch, and admittedly, it's starting to show its age. All of the Switch 2 rumors are swirling around, and the original Switch that we all love and adore will be set aside for what is hopefully just an improved version of my favorite console. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time rambling. Let's hand things off to Brandon.
What's up, everyone? Retro Brandon here, and when Slam asked me to come on and talk about some of my favorite Switch memories, while I have many, this took me all the way back to the beginning of this thing. All the way back in 2017, I picked this thing up basically day one. Coming off the Wii U, I was excited, but I really had no idea what to expect. In fact, when I first got it, it came with Breath of the Wild, which was absolutely incredible, but that's not actually the moment where it hit for me. Despite the concept of the Switch, I just kept treating this like all of the other consoles I've had for my entire life. Even the Wii U had trained me that I can only go so far with the gamepad, since I would lose connection if I went too far. So it wasn't actually until I got to go visit some family in another state that I really had an opportunity to test out the handheld experience. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a handheld nut, so I've had a Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP being my favorite, a DS, a 3DS, a PSP, a PS Vita, etc., etc. But none of that really prepared me for what the Switch had to offer. At that time, I just got Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. It was an early Switch game, and I like my tactics games, so I thought, why not? Anyway, after driving several hours, getting settled in, chatting, and then getting some downtime, I sat on their very comfortable couch, kicked out the recliner, and pulled out my Switch. I had no concept of how long this thing would last on battery life. You know, marketing isn't always accurate, so I plugged it in right away, and then I booted up Mario plus Rabbids for the first time. And when it started up, it hit me. This was a console game in my hands. It sounds so obvious now because we've had it for so long, but there was this level of excitement that I just could not describe. Like, this is the thing I always wanted. I remember back in the day trying to hack my PSP with some friends at school so I can get Chrono Trigger on that thing, because the thought of playing a Super Nintendo game in handheld was mind-blowing at the time. And now I was holding in my hands a console where I was getting console quality graphics, and I'm not going to argue about graphics here with the other consoles. Mario plus Rabbids looked great on the Switch, and it was in my hands. Handheld, TV, it didn't matter anymore. And I could still own my games. This wasn't like playing a game on a PC. Well, most of them. Anyway, since then, I've had an absolute blast with this system. Some highlights for me personally have been games like Zelda, the Fire Emblem series, Dragon Quest. Oh, Dragon Quest XI was so good. And I could totally go on about all of the memories I have, but maybe another time. So thank you, Slam, for bringing me on to chat about this console. Despite its age and weaker hardware, I think the Switch is going to go down as my favorite console of all time at this point. The library is insane. You get all this new stuff. You get these remasters, these remakes, and Nintendo just keeps pumping it out despite the age of the hardware. Anyway, if you're a fan of retro games with a major dose of RPGs and nostalgia, then check me out over at Retro Brandon. Given how old the Switch is, I'll probably be justified talking about this thing in just a few more years. See you over there.
Hey everybody, it's Femtrooper, and thank you Zany for having me on this collab, because this is awesome, talking about Switch memories. Now, I'll be honest here, I don't really have like a specific Switch memory, like an event or whatever, but one thing I want to talk about is just my memories with the console overall, in the sense that it really made me finish games way faster and made me like a better gamer. Prior to the Switch coming out, I was in my 20s and had all the free time in the world. I didn't have a kid yet. My husband and I were just like, dating and just chilling and doing whatever we wanted. And I basically did just that. I did whatever I wanted. So if I felt like binging a TV show and not playing video games, I'd do that. Or if I felt like watching movies, I'd do that. If I felt like, I don't know, whatever, going out and just shopping and doing whatever on a Saturday afternoon, I did that. the thing is, when you do a million things at once, you don't dedicate the same amount of time to one thing. So because of that, yeah, sure, I was playing games and I was beating a couple here and there, but that's it. I was just beating a couple here and there because I was spending my time doing whatever I wanted. Now that I'm a parent and I don't have as much free time, I really spend most of my free time on games because it's really hard, because if I just did whatever I wanted, I'd beat like one game a year. So I really go hard and I beat tons of games. And so that's the thing. The Switch came out, and then within the next couple years, we had our son. And then I started playing a ton of games, like a ton. And they were mostly handheld because the Switch was so handy for that, because I had this baby and it was like, oh my God, it's really hard to play games. And so I was playing a ton of Switch because I was like, oh, I can actually beat games. I started to get more confident, and then I started to beat even more games and try and like top myself every year. And now, you know, it's been years and years of the Switch being out. I beat a ton of games. I love to complete games. I love playing as many games as I can, as well as checking out different games in different genres. So I can thank the Switch for like introducing me to so many great series. The Switch introduced me to Dragon Quest. The Switch introduced me to Kirby. The Switch introduced me to random games that I would never have thought I would have liked, like Triangle Strategy or Harvestella. The Switch allowed me to finish games that I just didn't on another console because they ported it and made it more accessible, like Xenoblade Chronicles. So then I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. The Switch gives me memories from my childhood, like playing Super Mario RPG over again, because that was one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo as a kid growing up. And then I got to replay it now. That was so much fun. The Switch allowed me to play games that came out years ago that I just never played, and if I wanted to, I'd have to like boot up the PS1 or something, like Grandia or Star Ocean: The Second Story. I could go on and on here. My point is, the Switch has everything. It has old stuff, it has remakes, it has remasters, it has ports, it has new IPs that are incredible. The Switch has allowed me to finish games I never thought I would finish, and I just really thank it for that. The Switch has become my favorite console of all time, and so I just love it. So yeah, those are sort of my memories with the console. I just love it. I think it's one of the best consoles of all time. It is my favorite, but I truly do think it's awesome. I mean, hey, I was able to play video games on the treadmill because I can get the Joy-Cons to come off and I can actually like play games like this. Like I was playing so many games on the treadmill. It's weird and crazy, but yay, the system is awesome. So thank you, Zany, again for having me on here just to talk about some Switch memories and just why I love the Switch so much. Really excited to see what everybody's memories are because it is honestly just such a special console. Thank you again.
Hello, it's Miss Bubbles, and I have two memories attached to the Nintendo Switch. They are accompanied with two games that I found right at the same time, and I have to say, they hold a very special place in my heart. So when I got my Nintendo Switch, I was slowly checking what kind of games can I buy? What does the library have? And I remember looking at a store in Lebanon online, and I saw both Zelda Breath of the Wild and Skyrim at the shop. And I remember Skyrim always intimidated me, and so did Zelda. Both of these franchises were foreign to me, and they also felt like they had massive lore behind them, so it felt like it's gonna be impossible for me to get into. Also, Skyrim has dragons, and I'm just like terrified from dealing with any dragons in a game. Now, if you know me, you know that I adore Witcher 3 and Fallout 4, and that's because these two games have introduced me into Western RPGs. Favorite ever. As you can see, I'm in love with Geralt and the lore behind him and everything that the story has to bring. Same with Fallout 4, and Skyrim and Zelda Breath of the Wild kind of continue and expand on that experience for me. But before you go keyboard warrior on me, I think Zelda Breath of the Wild is a Japanese RPG. I have no idea. I know it's an RPG, but whatever the case is, let's just say they expanded on my RPG experience. And the reason why these experiences mean a lot to me is because I got to share them with my little sister. She would always check in on me, see my progress, ask me questions, and I feel like it just worked on building our bond a lot more back in 2017, and that's why now we're just very connected. And I feel like games and experiences like this really build a strong connection with the people that you experience them with. If you played Breath of the Wild, you know how that first scene that opens opens up the world to you, makes you feel like you're in for a treat, with locations to discover, Korok seeds to collect, puzzles that are gonna make you pull your hair, and the satisfaction of learning recipes that will make the journey a little easier. While Skyrim's start is a carriage where you're handcuffed and then all of a sudden you're seeing this massive dragon attacking people, and then the game throws you in this insanely massive world packed with lore and loot and dungeons to tackle, and I was like, oh my god. In both of these games, I was like, I don't know what to do. Where am I gonna even start? And of course, because I played both of these games on the Nintendo Switch, it meant that I can either play them on the TV, or if I'm out and about, I can take the Nintendo Switch with me, and I was just like, oh my god, these massive games are right in a handheld between my hands. These two resonate with me because I played them around Christmas and I shared them again with my sister, and they opened up the horizon for me in the world of RPGs. They showed me once more why I adore open world games, fully immersed in them. I love open world games. They consume my time, my thoughts, my energy, and every day I was so eager to come back home and play these games at night. And just like The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4, Zelda and Skyrim, they've shaped up the type of gamer that I am today, so I wanted to share that with you. If you love RPGs and cozy games, stop by my channel. You're gonna love the content that I make there. And thank you so much to Zany for inviting me for this one.
What's going on, guys? Up in Nimbus here. So when Zany had asked me what's my most favorite Nintendo Switch memory, I had a little think about it and I went with the launch of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, with myself being a massive fan of the Nintendo Switch, there are so many different memories associated with this Nintendo console, but one stood out amongst the rest, and that is the day I picked up Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Nintendo Switch. However, when I picked up this game, I did not actually play it straight away, as I was visiting a friend throughout the day. I went over to my friend's place, we watched anime all day because we had planned to binge watch the series. I think it was called Yuki Yuna or something along those lines. Very similar to Madoka Magica in nature with the Moe anime girls, and I fondly remember binging that series before heading back home, and I booted up the air conditioning, and oh my god, starting Xenoblade Chronicles 2 at night time during the summer here in Australia was just so blissful. I just love the ambience and the beginning of that title screen before you even start the game. I simply took this game at face value and took it for what it was. So uncovering all the mysteries and questions while playing through this game during December of 2017 was something that is quite magical, and it's one of my fondest memories of the Nintendo Switch. And it was right before the end of the year. I kid you not, this was after Christmas. It was right before New Year's had ticked over that I beat this game. And the culmination of emotions that had peaked within me as I watched the credits roll of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I was there late at night just gobsmacked with what I had played and witnessed and experienced in its entirety. And this is why Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is one of my most precious memories of the Nintendo Switch. I will never forget my first time experiencing this game, and I just wish I could live it all over again. Zany, thank you so much for inviting me to this collaboration of yours. I had an awesome time talking about my first time with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And as always, I look forward to everybody else's choice within this video. So until the next time, everybody, Up in Nimbus is signing off.
All right, my favorite memory was a hard one to choose. I had some great memories: the announcement of the console, the launch, the endless hours of Breath of the Wild, among many, many others. But the memory that sticks out to me the most, and what solidified this as my all-time favorite console, has to be my trip to Europe. We all saw the trailer of the guy on the airplane playing Skyrim, the lady on the rooftop with her friends, or playing the Switch at a bar or a restaurant. We all thought, this isn't a thing that will actually happen, right? This isn't gonna be me. But for me, it was. I spent hours and hours playing Mario Kart and Zelda on my flight, and it helped time absolutely fly by. Pun intended. Once I arrived in Europe, I spent a ton of time in coffee shops and pubs, and playing my Switch was truly amazing. See, as a kid, I loved my handhelds as hardware, but loved my home consoles for the games, and the two never met in a way that I really liked. See, handheld games were too minimal and designed around short play sessions, but I wanted to play handhelds like they were home consoles. I wanted those bigger, larger-than-life experiences on the go. Final Fantasy X, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and other big games that I got completely absorbed by were games I wanted to play all the time. But unfortunately, I couldn't. I never understood why I couldn't have a console that did it all. I was a kid, so obviously I didn't understand that there were technical limitations and what wasn't possible from a technical standpoint at the time, but I digress. The point I'm trying to make here is that I think we all had this dream when we were kids, and that's why the Switch is so successful. My trip to Europe embodied everything I wanted out of that console experience and really put into practice the concept of the Nintendo Switch. I mentioned earlier, the Switch is starting to show its age a bit with Zelda recently releasing, but Nintendo truly has something special here, and I hope they continue to ride this high, and I really look forward to see how far it could go. Anyway, that's it from me on this one. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everyone who participated in this collaboration. I really enjoyed listening to everyone's favorite memories and just looking back on the Switch in general. I really hope you all go and check out their channels because they're all putting out some truly amazing content. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite memories are and what you hope to see from Nintendo in the future. Until next time, I'm out.